Hi, this is Low Key College Convos, and I'm your host, Dr. Kim McCurdy. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with one of my closest friends who I've known for a very, very long time. And we talked about where we grew up and how we got through school. She talked about how she became one of only 20% of women engineers. And she talked about how she and her husband planned to pay for their 3 children to go to college. For you parents and students, this is a good one. I hope you get some nuggets that will be useful to you. Enjoy. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Kim.
Thanks for being here today on our Low Key College Convos. I wanted to talk to you because, well, I guess we should start by saying that you and I have an unusual relationship. And when we tell people about the longevity, I guess it's an unusual relationship, right, but it's the longevity of our relationship. Yeah, it's a regular relationship, but a long relationship, yes, right, that started a long time ago. Maybe you want to tell our listeners about that.
Well, I think I've said that you're one of my oldest friends.
Yes.
And then you correct me and you're like, no, I'm not one of your oldest friends. But we have known each other for a really long time.
That's right.
So we went to nursery school together, yes, when we were like 3.
Yes.
Yeah, which was a long time ago.
A long time. 40 plus something.
Yeah.
Yeah. We won't say how long, but a long time. And I think it's, we knew each other. We grew up in a very rural place in Western Pennsylvania called Homer City.
Yeah.
And went to Homer Center School District,
yeah,
the whole way.
Yeah, the whole way. Nursery school, and then the rest of the way through Homer Center.
That's right. And there were a lot of us that did the kind of same thing. I think there were a few more of us in our nursery school class, but
our nursery school class was probably like, I don't know, 15% of our graduating class.
That could have been too. Yeah, very small graduating class for sure. And I think, you and I were BFFs all the way through probably junior high. And then, you get new friends and all that. And then we graduated. We went to different colleges. And I'm going to ask you about your college experience in a minute. But went to different colleges and kind of lost touch for a while. I think I saw you at somebody's wedding one time. And then through the magic of Facebook, where we were able to reconnect.
Yep. Facebook.
Yep. And so I had been working in the area where you were living. And I believe we got to get together a couple of times for dinner.
Yep.
But I think it was probably around the time that you had just had your youngest son.
Mm-hmm.
So that was still a long time ago.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Because he's how old now?
16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just kind of stayed like peripherally, I guess, connected for a long time. And then I ended up moving within 4 miles of you.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's just through the magic
We literally have walked between each other's houses.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. So you just never know. Like everybody's like, oh, make lots of friends because you don't know. But like at the end of the day, I'm happy that we've reconnected. We're back together. So that's really exciting for me. But one of the reasons that I did want to talk to you is because of, well, there's a couple of reasons, but the first reason is because of the fact that you are a woman who is in engineering, which we know that there are only 20% of women as engineers. And that's,
I think it hasn't changed much.
Right.
Even.
Right.
They keep trying to move the needle.
And we haven't been in school for like 30 years.
Correct.
You would think that.
Yes, I was surprised.
More women. 20%. That's right. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about your college education, like your journey and how you decided to become an engineer, and then maybe how you ended up in the career? I always kind of tease you that you wear your damn pants, but you're a civil engineer, so that's a little different maybe than electrical engineer or others. So can you tell me about your experience?
Yeah. So I think we had talked about this not too long ago. Like I didn't really even know that I liked math until math got like a little bit harder. Because when I was maybe in junior high or so, it was okay. But then I started realizing, hey, I kind of like this. This is fun. And we had a teacher, Mr. Duke.
Sure.
Who
he's a great math teacher.
Great math teacher. Yeah. And I think there were a few people who seemed to have an interest in something kind of STEM related. And he took us to Carnegie Mellon for like an engineering day. Like I didn't even know what an engineer did. I had no idea, really, none.
So what year was that? Like probably late high school, maybe?
Yeah, I would say that was maybe junior year, sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, I think what I learned, you know, through him and maybe through that engineering day is like, well, it's easier to switch out of engineering than it is to switch into it.
Sure.
So if you think you might want to do it, you know, give it a shot.
It a whirl.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you're thinking, you know, when I was thinking of engineering, there were, you know, not wanting to go terribly far away. You know, there were only really a few schools where you could do all 4 years and stay put, not have to switch. And so I was kind of focused on those colleges. Ended up at Penn State, did go into engineering. And at the time you didn't have to you couldn't get into a major until your junior year. But I was kind of headed down an industrial engineering route. I have no idea why. None, because I honestly still don't really even know what industrial engineering is.
I was going to say, I'm not really even sure what that is. We'll have to kind of look that up and maybe put it in the notes.
But yeah, so I mean, I was thinking that, and then as I learned a little bit more, I kind of realized like I kind of like being outside. I kind of like, you know, the natural environment a little bit, and so I chose civil. And took classes then, kind of switched over and took classes towards the civil, got into my major and realized, yeah, I do kind of like this. It was challenging for sure. It was not easy. But I found that I liked the challenge and that I really liked the people. I think civil engineers are like some of the nicest people you can meet. I mean, they're very civil, you know, but they're really great. And, so yeah, I kind of found my people and said like, this is a good spot for me. I did towards the end, you kind of had to pick a discipline within civil, because within civil there are like water resource engineers, there are structural engineers, there are highway engineers, there's different kinds. And I chose environmental engineering, I think mostly because it gave you a minor, like I could minor in environmental engineering. And I thought that more was better maybe, but by the end I was kind of like, maybe not environmental. I kind of liked the pure water resources, and so then that kind of led to me staying to get my master's degree. And so I was able to get funding for my master's and stayed and got my master's, and the rest is history.
And you were a second generation college student, or third?
Yes, actually third. Yeah. So yeah, my grandmother was an elementary school teacher, and my dad was a high school biology teacher. And so on that side, I would be third generation.
Yep. And so, you know, we're going to talk about you and your family, but your nuclear family. Did they have conversations with you about college as far as like affordability and things like that?
That was a long time ago. I mean, I'm sure that I think we all kind of looked at it together because it was kind of new. I mean, you know, the town we grew up in, right next door to a state university, IUP.
My alma mater.
And and that's where my dad had gone. And so the whole like looking for a college, it was a completely different experience. That even though he had gone to college, you know, he didn't have the opportunity to say like, well, where.
And I think that's an interesting point. So the school, the high school, the junior high and senior high we went to was combined. And so there were 2 counselors for the entire, I don't know, 700 population of students that were there. I mean, we had a small class, but I think some of the people that had gone before us, maybe they were a little bit higher than we were, maybe around 100 or so students. So I think it was not that they didn't meet with us, because I do remember having meetings with our school counselors, and they were great people too. And I remember some colleges coming in to visit and going to those meetings.
Yeah.
But for me, I knew there was no money for me. Like I had to pay for it myself. So I knew I was probably just going to commute to IUP, since it was literally 6 miles from my house.
Correct. Right.
And then that was just, you know, what I was going to do. But I do remember like going to a college fair, and like I filled out a postcard for Point Park, I think, and they sent some materials, but I didn't even know like what to do about that. I didn't know that you needed to go on a college visit, or that, you know, there might have been other scholarships or funding, or private institutions might have resources. Like I had no idea.
Right.
So I really don't think we were given a lot at school
Right.
And at that age, like you're focused on so many other things too.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you think made the difference for you? Was it kind of the conversations with your parents, or do you think there were other friends that you were talking to? Like, what do you think made the difference that you were able to kind of go away?
Well,
I think it probably 80% that did go to college went to IUP.
Oh, for sure.
From our class.
Yeah. Well, I think it was the fact that I was looking, like, I think to do engineering at IUP, you would have had to do like a 3-2 program or something. I mean, it wasn't accredited for engineering, and so I think
they are now, but
and I at the time I think the accreditation process was a lot harder because there just weren't that many options, honestly, and so I think that made the difference. That I was like, I think I want to try engineering, and then. So that meant that it wasn't going to be IUP. It was going to be somewhere else. And so, and there weren't, within a pretty small radius, there weren't that many other options. So.
Yeah, there are still in Pennsylvania education deserts. That there's a really long stretch of nothing and farmland and no opportunity for sure. Yeah. So, but shout out to Homer Center because I think we did okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our graduating class, I think we had 3 engineers at least.
Okay.
So that's out of 78 or something. I mean,
I think there were 75.
75 maybe
across the stage. Yeah.
So it's. I mean, the fact that like we weren't surrounded, we couldn't go shadow an engineer, or like we didn't really know any in our community that we could, even really have an idea, or like, oh, they work at this place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's engineering. Like that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Meet Keystone Student Loans, your key to help pay for college. Access great benefits such as competitive rates, no fees, and multiple repayment options. Plus, you can finance up to 100% of your school certified cost of attendance.
Do you want to know the best way to save money when paying for college? Graduate on time. On average, it's taking students 5.5 years to complete a 4-year degree. College is expensive, and if you don't have to pay for extra semesters, you could literally save thousands of dollars. You might also run out of financial aid if you have to take a 5th year. It's okay not to know what you want to do, but try out some ideas at a cheaper school. And be careful when transferring. There have been a lot of efforts to make college transfer easy, but ask questions. You don't want to pay for classes that can't be used later, or worse, have loan debt for those classes. Visit your academic advisor each semester to stay on track. Most 4-year degrees require about 120 credits. You need to take at least 12 credits a semester to be full-time, but that won't get you out in 4 years. So set some goals before you start. Know what you're trying to accomplish, and then if something happens along the way, maybe you won't be that far off track. I think for me, and I told you this when I was working my dissertation, which is about first-generation college students and kind of how they're successful. I think hanging out with you and just, you guys were able to go on vacations because your parents had made more money than my parents had made. And so, you had other opportunities that I don't think that I would have had I not known you.
Right.
And so I think, I attribute a lot of my success to a lot of different things. I had, some great mentors and things like that too. But I think, pick your friends wisely when you're young, because you will be exposed to things that help you and make you successful later in life.
Sure.
So yeah, for sure. So we're going to switch gears here. And I want to start this part of the conversation by saying that I know that you and I have a lot of privilege, and that our situations, we went to college 30 years ago. So kids, you're raising children after having gone through college and all of the things, and you have a partner. So we are talking from a very privileged place. So I just want to put that out there for folks. But as you mentioned before we started, like if there is a nugget that anyone can glean from this, I think it's a really important conversation.
Yeah, I don't by any means think that everyone's going to be like, oh, that's exactly my situation.
or this is what I should do.
Or but maybe there's something to take away that can help somebody. So.
Right. No, and I agree with that. And I have, I have to say that I really respect you and your husband, and your kids are so great. Like, they're very well spoken. I think they are. Like, you did a great job. But they, they can hold conversations with me, and, nobody wants to talk to me, right? Like, they're like, you're my mom's friend. I don't want to talk to you, but like, they will, like, they'll have a conversation, and I've seen them be very polite and kind. And so I think, but I think that, you've done a really good job, but you've also had some success. And I think, like, if there is a nugget for someone, take the nugget, right? So that being said, you have 3 children. Your daughter, Abby, is graduated from college.
Right.
And your son, Alex, is in college. And then you have another son, Zach, who is coming up and maybe will go to college or maybe not, right?
Yep, hard to say.
They're all different, right?
They're all different.
So what was your strategy? You and your husband sat down at some point, you decided to have kids. Like, did you think about college right away? Did you say, when they were 2, like, maybe we need to save, or like, what was that strategy and what did that communication plan look like between, your family and everybody?
Yeah. So I have to give pretty much all the credit to my husband, Dan.
Shout out to Dan.
Shout out to Dan. Because he comes from a financial background.
Okay.
So he loves it.
Yes.
Like, he has an aptitude for it.
Yes.
And, helps other people with it too. So, I mean, I think that, I probably wouldn't have had such a straight focus if it hadn't been for him, because he, is able to, he's a good planner. He looks ahead and thinks about these things and doesn't mind, he can understand some of the lingo and doesn't mind doing the research. And so, most of it is his brainchild, but
gotcha.
I'm a good listener. I can follow directions. So he says, keep working.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was able to kind of look ahead and just, be able to run some numbers, to say, like, okay, if, we're going to have kids, once we had them, be like, how much would we have to save, to send them to college? And he does point out to me that there are tools out there that you can use. You don't have to know how to, get your calculator out and do it yourself. Yeah. There's online tools that you can use to help you with this, to be like, how much would you have to save? What kind of thing are you looking for? And so that's kind of, what he was able to do for us, kind of understanding some of the different options out there, and think about how much would we have to put away. And that is something that we did start doing when they were very, very young. And we used a couple of different tools for that. We used an education savings account, and we used a 529 plan, and that's his realm. But apparently they have kind of some different rules and things like that, that make one or the other or both, valid for somebody. But we, would have an automatic deduction kind of going into these things, so that we didn't spend it on something else that goes away automatically and just like was never there. So
did you do a PHEAA 529? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know every state has a 529 plan program, and I think you can do other states' programs. So if you do research, and we'll put information in the notes for this episode, so folks can take a look at different options that they might have. But I think that your point about that there's an education savings account,
right,
that's different from a 529. I don't know that I necessarily know the difference between the two.
You can have one of these with Dan.
Yes. we will ask Dan to come on again and explain, maybe, and do like maybe an in-depth detailed analysis of some of these programs. But I guess I don't really know the difference between the two. So there are different mechanisms that folks can look into. So I think that's a really important point for folks that are listening, to do research. There are websites that can help you. If you do work with a financial planner, I'm sure that they have information for you.
Right.
I've been talking to some folks that are starting to use AI in some of these calculations and analysis. So I think we're at a place where there's so much information at our fingertips that you can look into this as little or as much as you want to.
Right.
But okay, so you started young.
Yeah. So we started young. We started young, and just kind of, you have to plan for something, right?
Yeah.
You have to pick something. And so, you know, and of course they were young. So it was, 20 years ago or something like that when we started. We didn't know what college costs were going to be.
Right.
But what we could do is say, well, we know that there's a range. There are some, colleges that would be, on less expensive side. There's some that would be on the very, very expensive side. We didn't want to tie up, money that we wouldn't be able to use. So anyway, we kind of picked the middle of the road. We kind of said, well, something in the middle of the road we can plan for. And then, either it would be enough or it wouldn't. And then we could, take it from there of what we would do for the shortfall.
And I think that's an important thing for our listeners as well, that even if you don't have a lot of money, and especially if you're starting out, you're young, you have young children, maybe you're not making as much money as you will, maybe eventually. Right. I know, as you go through your career, you become more experienced, you have other opportunities to make more money. So, maybe you start small. Yeah. And like you said, it's either going to be enough or it's not.
Or it's not.
But if you didn't
the chance of you getting it right on the nose is pretty small.
But if you didn't save anything, then it's definitely not, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's really good. Anything that you can put aside and just have it, like you said, automatically deducted. Right. Don't even look at it. I think I was watching, David Bach, who's he's written about being a millionaire and how to use your money and things like that. And he's been on a couple podcasts lately that I've looked at. And that's one of the things that he really talks about is that automatic pay yourself first. Yep. And just don't even it's all behind the scenes. You never see it. Right. And I think that's a really good money lesson that I wish I probably would have learned sooner. Because when you have it, you spend it.
That's right.
And you can't even, I spend mine on books, but sometimes you don't even know where you spent your money.
You're like, what
because it's 20 here, 40 there, 100 there, and
leaks right out.
Yeah. So if you, even if it's $50 a pay that you've put in that 529 account, that's money that you could use for your child's education in the future. Right. So, yeah. So talk to me about you've started saving, your kids are getting a little bit older, your daughter's, maybe junior high. Are you talking to her about college and junior high at all? Or do you kind of wait for down the road?
No, I know we did talk about it. Some, just kind of in a, we both enjoyed our college experience. Yeah. So, we would, I went to Penn State, would go back up for the blue and white game, and so, I think the kids, got this, feeling that this was a positive experience in their life, something that maybe exposure. That, something that I would be interested in. And too, going back to visit my mom and dad, and it's a college town too, so, it wasn't a foreign concept of what does it look like? What does a college look like? And things like that for them, they kind of knew. And then, my kids have done pretty well and in their schooling. And so, I think that, got them thinking, well, maybe, I have the opportunity that I could maybe continue with my education.
So at what point, do you start visiting colleges, or do your kids start coming to you and saying, I want to look at this college or that college, or are you prompting them more, or is it kind of a mutual thing?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Each of them have been a little different. First of all, with my daughter, Abby, that was kind of COVID.
Oh, so yeah.
It was, we did take some trips, but you couldn't drove by, there it is.
Yeah.
Just, couldn't get out of the car.
No tour today.
Yeah, no tour. Yeah, things like that. So we did some of that.
Maybe a walkie-talkie.
Right.
If you look to your right, there is a building.
Yeah.
You can't go inside, but
if you were a student, you might be able to with the mask.
Right.
So it was all a little bit different. I think Alex, we kind of, just knowing his personality, I think we had some ideas of places that might be good fits for him that I'm not sure, left to his own devices. I'm not sure where he would have ended up. But, we kind of said, we should look at this. So we did do some college visits. I was really shocked. The Common App is, it's so much easier. When we applied to colleges, it was, first of all, you had to write a check every time you were applying.
That's right. And I believe it was paper.
It was paper. And it was painful.
Yes.
It was not easy, but I know Abby, you know, I mean, nothing else to do. She's stuck in her room in COVID.
Right.
So she applied to all these places.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even know her. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't know you applied there.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have to write a check for it, which was nice. But yeah, so I mean, it was a little bit different for all of them, you know, of how they went about selecting. But we definitely, you know, it was something we talked about. It was something that we, you know, they were relatively receptive to what we thought about it, which was nice. They weren't completely ignoring well, maybe they did ignore, but they looked like they were paying attention a little bit. So
yeah, that's good.
They faked it enough that they were polite enough about it. And, you know,
Mom and Dad might know what they're talking about. Yeah. We're not going to let on like too like precariously that we like are on board, but we'll go
and we did. We were like, get in the car. We're going to go take this trip and swing around and see a couple colleges and things like that. So
I think one thing I would mention, like to your point about the college application fees, there still are college application fees, but by and large, if you go and visit a school, they will waive those. Yeah. And if you ask the school to waive it, they usually will waive it as well. So I think our listeners, like, don't get caught up on my kid wants to apply to 5 schools, but we don't have 50 or 5, you know, $50 a pop for these applications. Yeah. I think there are ways, and, you know, you might still have to pay for one, but like maybe you can get 5 or 6 ways.
That is true about go to an open house and they give you, well, they give you a lot of stuff. You get a lot of freebie stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. T-shirts. That's right. all the tchotchkes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So talk to me, one of the things that, you know, my experience with PHEAA, and I'm talking to families, and I often will talk to a disappointed parent that realizes that they can't send their student where they wanted to go, or is kind of thinking, well, I can't send them, but I'm going to go ahead and just let them borrow, but not understanding there is a limit to what students can borrow on their own.
Sure.
And then the flip side of that is the disappointed student who thinks that their parents have all this money, that they're just going to write a check and pay for college. So I don't really need to think about scholarships or other things. They've got this taken care of. And then, you know, the 11th hour, they're like, oh, we didn't save any money for education. So talk to me about talking to your kids about your finances with not necessarily, like, a lot of families don't want to like tell their kids like the nitty gritty of their finances, but like, I think there has to be some kind of information sharing. So like, what about age appropriate and, like just some conversations that you could have, like what tips would you give to families that maybe need to have those conversations, but they're really not even sure where to start?
Yeah. And again, like, shout out to Dan, because, you know, he does start the conversation about, you know, financial literacy pretty young, you know, and tries to give them opportunities to understand, you know, how it works when you work and get money and then save some money and then you have some money to spend. And you know, he kind of did start that pretty young. Like both of our boys are in Scouts and, you know, they have the personal finance merit badge.
Okay.
And, so they, you know, it's the same, it's these concepts that should be, by the time they're, you know, getting ready to go out of the house, I hope that, you know, every kid has an opportunity to understand some of that stuff. And Dan was really good about teaching that. And so I think too, you know, you know, even like if we were making a family purchase or something like that, you know, it's a good opportunity to think about, you know, what value am I getting? Like, here are the options. Here's how it would affect our finances. You know, what's the value that I get out of it, and is it worth it or not? And how are we going to pay for this? You know, so, you know, there's opportunities, even if it's not related to college, you know, maybe it's a car or, you know, an appliance or any kind of larger purchase to get the kids involved in, like, you know, looking at some of those things.
Like, if we finance this, we are going to be paying this amount every month for however many years.
Yes.
And I think that's a concept too with education, that we pay for education 1 year at a time, and we pay for everything else over a course of years. So you buy your car, you finance it for 4 or 5 years, and you're good to go. Whereas education, you've got to reapply for your financial aid every year. You might need to take another loan every year, and then you add them together at repayment when they graduate. Those are the phone calls I get from families to say, you know, we borrowed and we kind of just kicked the can while they were in school, and now here we are and we have to pay this money back, and my student's not able to do it, or I'm not able to do it. So what does that look like? And I think that's, I'm not saying it's always preventable. I think, when you need to write a check for tuition, or, heaven forbid something happened in your family and you lost an income, or, just a lot of different things happen. And so I think understanding and maybe having some of this skill set in advance, but then maybe you're not as far behind if something happens, and you can get back on track. And all of those. And, sometimes folks have 529 plans, and they will ask, should I save it? Should I spend it? We don't have enough for all 4 years, but we have enough for some. And, I always tell them, talk to your financial planners, talk to your, other more expertise people than me. But, I think having something is better than having nothing. Having your student know about finances and financial literacy at an earlier age is better than them being kind of surprised.
Agreed.
That they've borrowed money and now they have to pay it back.
They have to pay it back.
Yeah. And I think, for me, I was probably in that situation. I borrowed money. I didn't really understand the concept of like these loans are going to come due. And I know you said you borrowed student loans as well. And you probably understood maybe a little more about that than I did. But, you just, you kind of do what you can. Because you need to pay for school. And then you're not really thinking of what that looks like later. I was very fortunate to be able to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. I think there's a lot of turmoil in that loan space right now. We're hearing in the news, some of these plans might go away. Some of them have. I have no idea how.
I mean, it seems a lot more stable when we were.
Yes, that was going to be my point.
Yeah. I mean, now, I don't know how.
And it was cheaper.
And it was cheaper.
So you could, I still owed like a very small I was able to work and just pay the balance, or I was working and then I paid for my books. And so I feel like if I had to go to school today, I may not have been able to afford it even as a commuter. Because I don't think you can earn enough in the summer to make that payment.
Take you through the rest of the year. Yeah. It's definitely a different environment, and there are a lot of options. We talked that I have one that hasn't, still in high school, and I'm not sure what he'll decide to do. I mean, and it does seem that at this point it seems like there's a lot of good options that maybe weren't talked about as much when we were that age. Options of trades or something else like that.
Community colleges. We didn't really have a community college local. Like it was probably an hour, 45 minutes away. Westmoreland County Community College would have been the closest, or Butler maybe. But we didn't really have that option. And that's, again, the case of a lot of students because there are these deserts. But if you do have a community college option, I always tell students, when you go and transfer to that 4-year school, your diploma is not going to say you started at a 2-year school. And there used to be this stigma with community college. I don't know if it's as prominent today or prevalent, but I always tell students, like, there are ways that you can get a cheaper education. And so anything's on the table, and don't kind of rule anything out. So is there any final advice you would give to parents, whether they have a really great partner that's guiding them through this, or they're kind of doing it on their own? What advice would you give to them, whether their kid is, a kindergartner, or they've got an 8th grader, or they haven't done anything and now it's senior year next year and they've got to figure this out? Like, what would be your top advice for them?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. I mean, I do think the financial literacy, like no matter where you are in there, I mean, there is some age appropriate lessons that you can be, sharing, and that'll help them not just in college, but through all of their life decisions. And I'm sure, I haven't looked, but I bet there are things online that can help you. If you don't know how to teach your kid that yourself, I bet there's something online that can help you through that, and just start talking about those things so that they are starting to understand, how it works to have a big purchase that you want to have, and you can decide whether you're going to, pay for it a long time before by saving for it, or pay for it a long time after, through a loan. So.
Yeah. Somebody that I know said, live like a student now so you don't have to live like a student later.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah.
So I thought that was good advice.
Yeah, that is good advice.
So, but thanks for coming on. I appreciate your experience. I think that this was really helpful. And like I said, there are definitely some nuggets that folks can take away. So appreciate you coming over.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.